Well, that music ended precisely on the end of the countdown. Awesome. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a little presentation of the latest template that I've released today in the Composing Tutorials online shop. Links are below in the video description if you want to know more. And I just want to use this video as a little explanation of what's going on inside, what the template is about, so you have a better idea of whether this might be something for you in your workflow and could help you improve and enhance your work. So without further ado, let's jump straight in. The template is called, I should have prepped that beforehand. So the link to the shop is, if you don't know, is store.composingtutorials.com. Again, links are in the video description below. If we just paste that in the chat here in case anyone wants to check it out. And yeah, the CTO Hero trailer template has been released today. And there is an introductory pricing going on. Right now it says 65 here because that's VAT applied. It's 55 euros for the introductory price and goes to 69 on April 1st. So there's roughly a good 2 weeks to decide whether this is something for you and that you want to grab a little cheaper for the release. This is a template fully aimed at trailer production. So trailer production in the widest sense. I called it Hero template because the demo queue that comes with it is a little, it's kind of has that heroic vibe to it. And before we jump in and look what's inside, I just want to, if you haven't seen the release video, I just want to give that queue a little playthrough so you can listen to the demo track that comes with the template, with the project, and then we take a little deeper look into it and what you can do and what it does. So here we go. This is the demo track that comes with the template. All right, so that's the demo track that's included in the template. So as you can hear, it leans very much into current trailer sounds standards that will be expected if you want to work in this field. And the main idea, I mean, obviously there is a demo project included that you can analyze further in terms of instruments used and how these instruments are set up. We will take a closer look in a second on this as well, on the individual parts. But I think the main reason why this template might be interesting is the fact that I heard a lot of people get in touch with me that they struggle with the mixing side of things and getting virtual instruments to sound clean and polished and don't have a muddy mix, but yeah, have the clarity that is expected from these type of cues. And that's why I first and foremost set this template up, because it's not only about the libraries used and the composition itself, but the biggest portion of this template is actually what's happening under the hood on the individual tracks and how to kind of make it sound the way it sounds. And what I want to do is, I did that in the video for the template as well. I want to give you an A/B comparison between the mixed and unmixed channels. So I linked all the channels here so I can deactivate all the inserts on one single click. So I just want to show you what the difference is between the mixed and unmixed. Unmixed means there's no processing like EQ or compression or whatever I have on the channels. It's just the sound straight out of the instruments, like straight out of contact with the Jaeger instruments like brass and strings and some other it's mostly based around Jaeger. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But yeah, let's jump quickly in here to the final part, and I do an A/B between mix on and off, so you can get an idea of what this template hopefully can do to your sound as well. And I will also present that in the on the individual sections, so you can really hear what's going on. I thought I'm gonna showcase a few things just as some general tips if you don't want to buy the template but still interested in some tips on how to make virtual instruments sound a little more clear and a little bit more in your face. That's what I'm gonna do here. So first of all, let's take a listen to the string section here. Same thing. I'm just gonna activate and deactivate the insert effects, just playing the strings here on that last section. So you hear how it really jumps up, how the it's obviously much more present in the high end. That's not necessarily based on just pushing the high end, but rather by taking away some of the muddy frequencies. Yeah, I'm just talking about that. Yeah, the high end comes throughout much more. It's one thing is that in that hybrid trailer style, you kind of have this over the top production, but also the biggest difference for me is that sample libraries overall, in general, in my experience, tend to get muddy in the sound. And I mean, there's a simple reason for that. I always try to explain it like that. When you record an orchestra in a room, you have what is it, 15, 20 microphones, the individual close mics for the sections, and then the decker tree and the room, and maybe a surround mic, etc. And when all the players are playing at once, you record that one time and have a take and it sounds great, etc. With sample libraries, you have kind of that same recording chain, but every single note that you triggers that recording chain on top of each other. So it's not like when you play a string chord with cello, basses, violins, and violas, and have a 5-part harmony playing between the sections. It's not like that the sections all playing at the same time and you have one recording, it's actually 5 recordings with the same chain stacked on top of each other. And while this is Filmus, you say you bought the Logic version and the Vital Synth patches load as init patch. That should not be normal. They should actually load. But good point, I may include the presets in the download. I will update the download for that. Sorry for that. It shouldn't be like that. It should actually load with the patches installed. But yeah, I will take care of that. Where was I? Yeah, the stacked recording chains for individual sounds. So basically, when I take just the short strings here, for example, and let's take the EQ off here. So that's the sound out of the box. And by the way, the template for the most part uses Audio Imperia's Jaeger, which is an amazing library for trailer productions. It just sounds gorgeous. And it already sounds great as it is. It also has already some tonal sonic options with the modern mix and the classic mix. The classic mix is much more subdued and sounds more. And the modern mix already has a little bit more beef and bite to it. So, this already sounds a little more in your face, or significantly more in your face. But as I said, when you have that single note, that is the culmination of the microphone chain with all the ones that I mentioned: the close, the deca, the surround, room, etc. So 2 notes doubles that amount of the microphone chain. 3 notes, 3 times. You kind of can do the math yourself. So when I play a full 5 voice chord, then I have 5 times the microphone chain. And while this is not as bold and as recognizable, there is, in my opinion, having worked with live recorded orchestra and with sample libraries, there is a significant difference in the low-mid build-up with sample libraries. I feel that there is just too much boxiness and mumbliness going on when several sampled instruments come together, especially in a dense production as a trailer track, where you have not only one source, but usually layer things and stack things on top of each other, so it just accumulates. And I feel the full playback comparison between mixed and unmixed shows this very clearly, that it sounds like, to me, it always feels like it sounds like you put a blanket on top of the recording. It's like something below the blanket. And my goal is to lift that blanket and let the instruments shine through a little more, especially in a modern trailer production where we need this high-end polished sound. So going back to the strings here, playing them once more with inserts on and off. So when we look at, and the thing is, you don't really hear that much of a difference on the individual instrument level. It's really the sum of the pieces when it comes all together. So just on the violins shorts here, for example, if I take that EQ off, so it's not like it's a day and night difference between these two, but especially that for me it's the 250 to 500 hertz range. That's usually the most annoying, that builds up with stacked instruments. So I'm dipping that a little bit. I'm using Pro Q3 or Pro Q4 on the Logic version. And what this is doing is just dipping ever so slightly this this muddy range from, say, 250 to 500, maybe 600 hertz. And for me, with just years doing it now, that's what I ended up with for making that blanket disappear. We can also listen in closely, talking about that area. If we go to the cello, for example, let's take these cello shorts here. There we go. They don't play that much of a fancy line here. Or look at the EQ. It's always this sound that comes in when I take the EQ off. For the cello, it's a little lower. So I'm trying to not fully get rid of it, because then there's a danger of the sound getting much too thin. So we still need this for the body, but we need to, in my opinion, we need to control it and just put it into its place. On the cello, I dipped a little bit in the 427 range as well. So again, it's not that major difference between these two sounds, or EQ on and off, but enough to make a difference when everything comes together. Again, same range here on the ensemble. It's even a little more in the 180, and then again 400 range. And also a little dip here on the ensemble patch at 2K to get rid of a little bit of the harshness in the sounds. Just trying to read on the comments here. Give me a second. But the logic, we talked about that. I will fix that. When it comes to knowing which instruments to increase, decrease in EQ, I know a bit about cutting the lows to remove the menu rooms, as you refer to, but mids, highs are harder. Yeah, I mean, I low cut basically everything that has nothing to do in the low end. We'll show that in a sec. Do you do a lot of volume adjustments too on the individual tracks, or do you mainly use velocity and expression? I mainly use velocity and mod wheel where applicable for long instruments, or sometimes CC11, but I also have a little bit of fader movement going on, bringing stuff down and making it fit. For example, on the strings here, I doubled the string parts, the shorts, with solo strings. That is Audio Imperia Solo that I'm using here. And this is just for the sake of getting a little bit more definition into the strings. Actually, let's quickly do an A-B. So I'm gonna mute the solos and then bring them in. In regards to, I intentionally included the Ferrum free version because I wanted to, and also the Vital, the free synth, just to keep the kind of cost for the libraries that you need for the template at a minimum. The free version is not a patch that is as it is included in the full version of Ferrum, because it has a few sounds from all of the patches. So it's basically a selection of sounds from the full Ferrum. But honestly, I mean, it's not really about the exact patch that I've been using here. So these sounds that I have here, it's basically just a low and a slam. If I were to recreate that with a full version, if you don't want to install or don't have the full version, the free version of Ferrum, what I would probably do is go with the organic patch. Let me quickly just load this up. Come on. Yeah, while streaming, it always takes a little bit longer to... There we go. Okay, so let's load up the regular Ferrum here. And I think you should be fine with either the Organic Massive or the Epic Trailer. I think the Epic Trailer might be most fitting. So if you load that one. So the C2, is that the same one as the... Sounds pretty similar. Yeah, so it's the Epic Percussion, the C3. That's the lower note, and I think the C4 is the upper one from this other patch. I used the C2. So that, yeah, that's pretty similar. So basically, it's with the Epic patch, it would be the same thing, just an octave up. That should roughly be the same thing as the free version. But on the other hand, I mean, the free version is free, so and it's like 300 megabytes. It's not like you're losing bread or anything when installing that. So you can use that. So, but we should be pretty similar. So the free version sounds like this. Versus if you use the Ferrum Epic. Still not, oh well, wrong octave. It still needs to go one more. There we go. Yeah. So that's roughly the same. So if I mute the free version, that was not muted. That is free, and this one is with the... So yeah, basically you could replace these sounds with the easily with a full version of Ferrum if you have that with the Epic Trailer Percussion Kit. There is a few other notes coming in towards the end here. I would have to check. This is E. That's the F and G from the Epic Trailer Kit. So yeah, basically, if anyone rewatches that later, you can easily replace the free kit with the Epic Trailer Kit from the full version if you have the full version, and move that 2 octaves up, and then you're roughly in the same boat. But still, again, it's not about having the exact same sounds if you don't have access to them. It's just there to roughly get you into the ballpark. And same applies to the brass. On the brass, I did layer that with performance samples, angry brass, horns and bones, and even trumpet. The template would fully work with just the Audio Imperial libraries. I'm using Jaeger and a few things from Talos, both Audio Imperial libraries. Let's play the brass on its own. Just as a comparison without the performance samples part. Just the performance samples on their own. They just have a little bit more boss to them in the sound, so that's why I like to layer. But you could also replace that with any other brass library if you don't have these. By the way, if you open up this the first time, you will likely get a missing samples message at the beginning that Kontakt does not find, for example, the Angry Brass. All the other libraries should work without any issue because they are player libraries, but the performance samples is not a player library, so you would need to reload the instrument upon first opening. And then, yeah, same comparison with the insert effect. So turning the inserts on and off on the brass, just for a quick idea of what this does to the sound. Honestly, the brass has a little bit more going on under the hood. Let's take a quick look at some of the individual instruments. So let's take the 6 horns here from Jaeger. Turning the inserts off. So, by the way, I'm also using the virtual mix rack from Stephen Slate for basically everything else besides EQing with the Pro Q. I also use the analog emulations for a bunch of stuff like the Pultec EQ and things like that, especially on the group faders. The horns have a little bit of compression. Every single channel has the virtual channel on top, so basically it emulates, this is set to the Brit N setting, so that emulates everything running through a Neve console. I really struggle to hear any difference with the virtual channel on a single instrument level, but having that on all the channels and turning it on and off to me makes a day-night difference. It just gives depth to the mix and to the sound of the instruments. I just like to have that. It's an optional thing, but I would say that you might have a hard time recreating the mix if you don't have the virtual mix rack from Slate, because there's quite a bunch of settings and plugins that I use to get this sound. So just using a little bit of compression on the horns here. Really just tickling the needle when it gets a little too loud, just to keep everything where it should be. On the EQ side, similar to what we saw on the strings, honestly. But what really makes it shine here, I love the Waves API 550. And this is basically, I think I have the exact same settings on the strings here on the API when we compare that. Well, I mean, this is high strings, so I'm just pushing the 10K a tiny little bit and not doing anything else. But on the horns, I'm pushing the 10K. Usually I go with only 2 decibels of gain, sometimes 4, but mostly 2. And I have a little dip here in the horns at 800, also 2 decibels down, and then pushing it a little bit at 100 hertz, 2 decibels. So basically just creating a little bit of a smiley curve EQ for these instruments. I have this on all the strings with the API and on a few of the brass instruments. Other than that, there is no API. I think it's just on the brass and on the strings. Yeah. And just on the horns, by the way, not on the others. So I layered the 12 horns and the 6 horns. So the 12 horns from Talos and the 6 horns from Jaeger. You don't even need Talos. I think there is a 12 horn version in Jaeger as well. Technically, I could have just used Jaeger for this. But if you don't have Talos, nothing to worry about that. So if you open the instrument and you don't have the Talos 12 French horn, I'm just using the legato, so even the other key switch patches don't really matter. So if you don't have Talos, what you can do is go into Jaeger. Obviously, you will need Jaeger for this, otherwise it won't work. And then you can go to brass, and there is the 12 French horns. So you can, and this is basically the same thing like the Talos version. Maybe stripped a little bit, well, stripped in terms of articulation. Oh, I see. There's no legato in the Jaeger 12 horns. So might be better to stick to Talos for this. My bad. I forgot about that. So back to the Talos 12 horns. In case you want to recreate something, I usually turn off the internal reverb from the instruments, at least for this template. I did. And these two layered together sound like this for the main line. Saving. So that is Jaeger 6 horns and 12 horns. That's just the 6. Little side info in case you kind of want to know about this. One of the things that makes this better when it comes to programming your data is these two lines are basically the same, but they are played in 2 times. So I'm not copying that part over, I'm playing both lines, because then you just get slight variations in how you write the mod wheel, slight timing variations, things like this. So it just sounds a little bit more natural when you have these variations in between the note endings and transitions, things like that. So if you have a line that is doubled, I would not just copy the part over, but play it again to have a little bit more variation in there and more humanity. And then, yeah, same thing with the angry brass horns. They play very much the same thing on top as well. I did a little bit of harmony there in the, I think in the 12 horns. No, I did that in the angry brass. So yeah, there's just a little bit of a harmony voice. And as you can hear, I just realized that there even are timing issues. Like one is playing a quarter note before the beat, the other one is playing the half note. So, but honestly, I don't worry. It just makes it sound a little thicker. It doesn't always have to be perfect. It just gives a little bit more life to it. So I'm happy that I at least played the right note, even if it's not the same timing there. Then we have the brass. So I'm using the performance patch for not the brass, the trombones. I'm using the performance patch for the trombones. And here I have quite a good chunk of compression going on. I also want to make sure that these attacks from the performance patch are not too heavy. So the velocity is rather down on these ones. Although I just realized that the velocity doesn't really change the attack of the note, but that's what the compression is for. So the compression helps a little. To keep that impact in place. But on the other hand, I specifically used this patch because I wanted to have that start of the note instead of just the sustain sliding in. And then that is layered with the angry brass bones. And there's a third harmony voice coming in there if we look at both. That's just the full chord in close voicing. And then we have the low brass, which is just the Talos low brass. And this one gets quite a bit of treatment on the virtual mix rack. So again, a little bit of compression, but the lift EQ, I love the custom series lift, really pushing the low end there on this one. If I turn that on and off. That's really giving some low-end rumble. The sub that I have from the synth is not too heavy. That's why I kind of have these work in conjunction. So the low end together with the vital sub. So that's the sub synth underneath, playing the same as the low brass there, or the low strings for that matter. I think these low strings play the same thing as well. What did I do here? Just a little bit of 2A compression to kind of adjust for the wobbliness in the low end, just taming it a little bit. And in terms of EQ on this one, still cutting the very lows, again getting rid of a little bit of the low mids, and I don't even know why I have that 2K in here. That's why there was a little bit of build-up in that area that I didn't like from the sound, so that's why I turned it down. And let's take a quick listen to the percussion section. Section. I was thinking of adding more stuff from other libraries, but I figured, well, if we are working with mainly Jaeger, maybe just stick to it. So the only thing I added is the Ferrum Free. I changed a few patches where I was kind of missing instruments. I wanted to have some kind of like Darbuka sound or something, which the library doesn't have. So I went with the high taikos and messed around with the EQ setting here. So I thinned that out. I wanted to have that high kind of chasing element there. Let's quickly listen to just the percussion portion. So, and on the individual instrument level, again, not so much going on. There's a little bit of compression on the Gran Casa. Kind of lengthening the sound a little bit. And just making it a little larger than life. And on the EQ side, getting rid of a little bit of boxiness, cutting the very lows, and there was some click in the high end that it took out a little bit. And same on the low toms. These sounds really come together by really layering them as well. So these low toms with the Gran Casa work great. They sound rather short. On these ones, I used an SSL compressor just to give a little bit more aggression. So just to push a little bit, and these are pretty dry as well. There's a lot of tail on the other instruments, so I don't really need to have the percussion tailing in as much. They have just more impact and punch the way they're here set up here. I have a little bit of snare coming in for the last part. On the snare, I'm basically using a preset here, the snare parallel from the FG116. Sounds amazing on the snare. I just solo that. Just gives a little bit more body and definition. I forgot one thing about the strings that I wanted to mention. I said that I layered the solo cello or the solo strings underneath. Let's quickly take a listen to just the solo strings. But honestly, for my taste, these were a little too tame for my taste, the solo strings from Audio Imperia. So I really pushed them with a little bit of saturation. So without the inserts, you can really hear the distortion coming in, especially on the cello. I really pushed it. I'm using the, here it is, I'm using the New York Pre and really pushed the saturation hard. If I were to play chords, you would really get into distortion territory. You can hear the distortion there. But that's kind of the sound that I wanted and needed for the solo cello there. If I listen to the stuff that's happening in the intro, it's really a big difference between these two. Even when layered, when I bring them all in, when I just... It's not just loudness, it's also the added harmonics on top that really make it shine and come through and come forward. Again, I really love what the solo strings are doing for a production like this on top. Again, just a comparison without and then bringing them in. Really some cool definition there on top. On the synth side, again, I used Vital. I will update the downloads to include the presets in case they don't load up. This is just the synth portion. To be honest, there is a Jaeger pulse in there as well that I should mute, so that's just the Vital portion. So the lead is just doubling the horns and the high strings, just gives some more electronic edge and some definition. Whereas the synth ARP is just doubling the line from, I think, the violins. You get the idea. So it's just all about layering and thickening up the sound. I used Audio Imperia Chorus for the choir. This is, but it's just basic R patch. So if you don't have these, you can easily replace them with whatever choir library you have available. These are just big block chords going with the harmony of the track. Using the custom opto on the virtual mix rack to limit or to kind of tame the inner volume differences in the sound. kind of just thickens up a little bit. And if we look at the EQ curve, pushing the highs a little bit, again, getting rid of some of the lower mids and cutting in the low end because I don't need that. There's a lot of stuff going on in the other instruments. Again, back to Jaeger for some of the synth sounds. There's some sound effects patches. The dark pads start the track off. These bends, that's single sound. The signature sound that I used here, which is it's from the ping folder that is included with Jaeger, but I used a little bit of pitch bend to make this, to create this little bit of a bend sound there. There is a little bend in the end of the sound already. And there's also, by the way, I have some cut off in the beginning and then opening up towards the end. So at the end, we have the full sound with all the high end in there. So, but yeah, this sound itself. And then bringing the pitch bend down, starting off and then bringing it up while the sound is playing. And you get that little bit going too high at the end there because there is this pitch drift in the sample itself, but I still think it works pretty well for the track. And then last but not least, so there's then some whooshes and hits also from Audio Imperial Jaeger. Nothing is rendered to audio, so it's all MIDI. So with MIDI hits, sometimes you have to adjust the start timing a little bit to make sure that the hit lands on the one. Usually it's faster to just render them to audio and then place them according to the peak of the waveform. But since I cannot share audio files in my downloads as it's intellectual property, I have to use the MIDI version. But it's fine, it's working either way. And there is some groupings going on. I try to keep it as simple as possible, so there's not much going on in terms of subgroups. There's all the effects that is used. It's all set up the way you happen to know from my other templates. Usually there is 3 types of effects per section, which is the Berlin Studio for the room, for the orchestral part, cinematic rooms for the tail, and usually some delay if need be. I didn't even use it on this one, but I reduced the number of groups to the one that I use, so there's no woodwinds in here, so you don't need a woodwind stem. This all goes through the final stems here, and then there's just one simple thing I really love, the Waves L4. This is an amazing limiter and it just sounds gorgeous, and it has an insanely short latency. So it's just 2 milliseconds, which is gorgeous because I can have it on the fader and still work and play live. Most limiters have much more latency, 20 milliseconds up, etc. So this one is there just to bring it up to level. The pre-master gain, there's in here I have a instance of supervision on it. This could also there's metering on the other versions as well. So in Studio One there's the level meter on these channels. This one is there to make sure that my pre-master signal is not clipping and not going above 0. So we can see here that my pre-master volume sits at roughly minus 4 decibels. So that is before it's hitting the L4. Someone asked in the chat whether these are pre-fader or post-fader. These are set pre-fader, to be honest. Because I want to make sure, even if I have some settings here, I just want to make sure that the signal is not distorting. So I want to have, doesn't make sense what I'm saying right now. Sorry for that. This could easily also be post fader. Technically, it should be post fader. I don't even know why I have them pre fader. They should be post fader. So if I move whatever this down, then the pre-master should reflect that move. So yeah, if you want to fix that, if you keep everything at 0, it doesn't matter. But if you change the volume of one of these faders, then you would probably want to have the pre-master metering to post fader. You can change it here. It's not really big of an issue. And again, the pre-master fader is not going anywhere. It's not routed anywhere. It's really just to have a control instance to check the levels. And you can see on the gain stages here, I brought all the group levels down by 4 decibels because I was clipping. So the sum of everything was too loud, which even happens in normally gain stage templates and when you have a proper level from the start. But the more instruments you bring in, especially with production like this, it's very easy to hit the red light on the master. And since there was no clipping or any issues on the individual instrument level, the easiest fix for me is to just get in here and fix the pre-gain on in Cubase. Studio One, the same thing. In Logic, I did it a little differently. There, because Logic doesn't have a native pre-gain, there is a utility tool that you can either use, or with a virtual mix rack, you could use the trimmer, which I did in Logic on a bunch of instruments, and then you can trim by 4 decibels, for example, -4, and put this on top. It's kind of the same thing. So that has been my workaround for the Logic version. In Cubase, again, I'm using the pre-gain. This template would work really, really well, shameless plug, with the stem limiting template. So you could render just the stems, then you would bypass the processing on the master fader here, and therefore could then put this into the stem limiting template and get your stems sounding exactly the same as the stereo mix. That shall be it for today. Just wanted to give a quick overview of the template, what's included. You can, of course, if you don't have these libraries, you can replace them with other libraries, but the EQ settings and the mixing settings are, of course, pretty geared towards the sound of Jaeger. So it might sound significantly different if you change that to Cinematic Studio Strings or other string libraries. Jaeger is just very suitable for that type of sound. That's why I chose this one. And by the way, Cinematic Studio template is in the works and coming very soon. Not hybrid style, but more regular orchestral style. Working on that. So that's it for now. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to use this as a kind of reference and walkthrough video, put it on the product page. If there are any questions, feel free to post a comment below, and make sure to give it a thumbs up, a like, a follow, and if you're interested, the links for these templates are in the video description. Thanks so much, and I see you on the next one. Bye-bye.